Now, on to the second verse. He is, as so many people do, talking to somebody, but he's kind of on autopilot. I do this all the time myself, and then I have to try and rewind back in my subconscious mind what it is that the person said, what words I caught, what they might have said depending on the context, and then decide, do I give a full response or nod yes or shake my head no or do something in between, and try and figure out what response I should give to get back into the conversation so that they don't know that my mind has wandered. So as he's wandering along the corridor with this nun, his mind has already wandered to his sort of long, unrequited love, but he also considers this woman, Maud Gonne, more on her later, to be his muse because he was a poet and she inspired him to write wonderful poetry about her beauty and sort of combine the idea of her as being an ideal woman with the idea of a nation or a birthplace being a woman, and that she was perhaps like other characters like Lady Lavery or Erin, the Children of Lear. I'm going to have to check up on that. I don't want to misspeak. I may be wrong on that. But in any case, it's a very cliched motif to anthropomorphize a country or a nation as being a woman. It's generally female. France in French is La France rather than Le France. And I think that's probably going to go that way for a lot of languages. Unless, of course, you call it the fatherland. But anyway. Oh God, I don't mean to deviate down that road. It's just meant to be a short introduction to verse 2. So his mind is wandering. It has wandered. And as he is ambling along with this nun through the school corridor, he says, I dream of a Lydian body. So he's kind of actually comparing her to a Greek goddess, this woman, Maud Gonne. What he means by Lydian, he's made an adjective out of the name Leda, who was one of the many consorts of Zeus. So when we say that Zeus consorted with her, we mean that he reproduced with her. And I mean, if it's a god, you're not going to get much say in the matter, even if you aren't totally swooning and bowled over by him. I mean, after all, Zeus was the main god of Mount Olympus, at the very least. He was the king of Mount Olympus, and so therefore he was the king of gods. Now, Zeus or Zeus, which may be a better way of pronouncing his word, because I will deviate quickly and say Zeus, Z-E-U-S, rhymes with the Deus, which is the Latin for God, our God, Deus, omniscient. I should say omnipotent as well as omniscient, because he's God Almighty as well as God All-Knowing. But I think what I'll do is, instead of deviating now, I will make another video about Jupiter, the Roman version of Zeus or Zeus, because it is a very interesting little deviation, I think, but it's going to take too long for this particular stage of among school children, so I better get back to it. So Zeus or Zeus, however you want to say it for now, disguised as a swan. So we're talking Greek legend here. Flew down, and I don't know why. I mean, why would you need to disguise yourself as a swan in order to seduce? Is a nice word for it, right? Rather than the or word, which a lot of people would characterize it as now. So he seduced Leda by disguising himself as a swan. He had some neck on him. Oh God, I'll leave it at that, right? And so then in turn, because of this consortium, oh, isn't that a curious use of the word? Because of their tryst. Oh God, come on, move on from trying to find different delicate words to describe the union. She gave birth to polydeuces, or polydeuces. But polydeuces is a nice way of pronouncing it, I think, because what is a deuce rather than a deus? A deuce is a two, a twin. You know, you're playing cards and you say, oh, deuces. Could be two twos that you split if you're on the blackjack table. But anyway, let me not get into that. And we immediately move then from Greek legends to pretty much foundational Irish folklore and mythology. The Children of Lear, who were known to have been turned into swans. I never got a straight answer as to why that was. They just were, just like so many myths and religions, just accept it and move on. Now, I'd be fairly sure you've all heard of probably O'Leary as a typical Irish name, Dennis Leary. Doesn't have to be O'Leary, it could be just Dennis Leary. And he used to talk about, like, we'd go down to McClurry's and myself and my mom, he had a great bit, like, I got drunk, my mom got drunk, we fought, we puked, we danced, we fought again, we got drunk again. So McClurry's, McLeary's, O'Leary's, the children of Lear. It's a very Irish name. And it's just, I think what I'm trying to move towards showing is that all of these legends, whether they be Greek, Roman, as I'm sure plenty of people know, Egyptian, Persian, Babylonian, Celtic, whether that be Irish, Scottish, whether it be from Isle of Man, Cornwall, Little Britain, in other words, Bretagne, Brittany, in the west of France. All these stories are recycled over and over again, retold in many different ways, and I'll come back to that theme later. I've barely got into verse 2. But I must mention the other theme, so twins, and say that twins are like two halves of the same egg, or they could be two separate eggs fertilized at the same time. No need to go into the different aspects of that, but whether they are either type of twins, they spend so long together, they have a special connection. And there is the idea of two hearts, or a heart split in two. And so there's the idea of, I'm not trying to immediately conjoin the idea of brothers and sisters and lovers, but even if we put that to one side, that was common in Greek and Roman gods, and Egyptian, of course, as well. And it gets even more complicated than that. Again, this is why it's important to be able to hold an idea in the head, turn it around, countenance it, examine it, put it down if you don't like it. But it exists as an idea, and you must not allow yourself to become overwhelmed or irrationally angered by it, or made to feel that it's repugnant or that it revulses you in some way. Because if that is a sort of a reflex reaction, it needs to be tamped down. Otherwise, there may be important aspects of life, our history, why we're here, why anything works the way it does, why anything matters, missed out on if we don't look at these things, how anything came to be and where anything's going. So the notion of, two wings of the bird, of the swan, whatever it might be, it could be the eagle, but anything else, and then two halves of a heart, if they're separated, or a soul torn in two, always, perpetually, throughout the ages, throughout oceans of time, looking for each other. It's a phrase, by the way, from Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman in it, and I forget the actress's name, but it was a beautiful phrase, I thought. And it goes into reincarnation, and I will mention that because W.B. Yeats, the author of this poem, William Butler Yeats, was very much into occultist stuff, quasi-religious cultist mystery school, Babylonian mythology, Egyptian mythology, maybe some things that people might characterize as being from Crowley, and I was trying to think of his name there. I was going to describe him as the guy who, liked making pyramids and putting his arms up and occluding one eye and things like that. The Hermetic Society of the Golden Dawn, I think it was called. So occultist or occluded stuff. Now immediately that might put people's hackles up. But again, it's important to look into these things, examine them, know about them, because there are surely people who take these things as being their, I suppose, guiding philosophies. Now, they may discard them at some point in their lives, but the ideas influence how men behave and women. And both Maud Gonne and William Butler Yeats were very much interested in this kind of stuff. I'll get into that later. No time to get into it now. I realise now this is going to have to be a series of stuff. Oh God, even though it could have been quick. So we'll come back to the idea of twins and two sides of the same coin, or two parts of the same soul, looking for each other again. Artists and muses, even, as was the relationship, I suppose, really, between the poet and this woman, Maud Gonne. So, he's dreaming of a Lydian body. That's the Greek Hiberno mythological connection. And now he says, bent above a sinking fire. Ooh, la la. A tale that she told of a harsh, and I say la la because actually, maybe it's appropriate, ooh la la, she was born. No, I was going to say she was born in France. No, she was born somewhere near London, not a million miles away, in England, but she lived a lot of her life, or had her education, I think in Paris, in France at least, anyway. A tale that she told of a harsh reproof, because she was always spurning him, maybe that's what it is, or a trivial event that changed some childish day to tragedy. Told, and it seemed that our two natures blent into a sphere, from youthful sympathy, or else, to alter Plato's parable, into the yolk and white of the one shell.